on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
Well, it's nice to get the income, but it's mostly just because I enjoy it. Sometimes when I'm in the marketing part of it, I'm thinking to myself, that's it. I'm really retired. I'm not doing any of this anymore. But I do it more for my own enjoyment. And because I have readers that really do look for the next book, that's gratifying to me.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Show with me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson.
Here we are, Mark, pressing on into summer. We're doing a bit of batch recording this time of year, but we can now say that we have had our this is a bit weird because at this point, the dear listener will have already seen the recap of the conference. The conference is behind us. I'm hoping by the time this goes out, certainly by the time this goes out towards the end of July, that we will have been able to announce the dates for next year's conference. And I'm still sort of on a bit of a high from the conference. It was brilliant and getting lots of really positive feedback about it. We had a few technicals with the venue, but the venue is starting to feel like home for the Self-Publishing Show, and I think that's how they feel about it as well. So we hope that by the 29th of July that we will have been able to announce the dates and probably done a pre-sale of tickets.
Yeah, that's the plan. I think we know roughly when it will be. I think we pretty much know what the dates are, just waiting for them to confirm it. And then, yeah, we'll put tickets. I think we'll have a longer sales period this year so people can, to get tickets. I think we'll offer them to people who are at the conference first. We'll get first dibs, but that will mean there are still plenty available for others who want to come. So I think it will sell out. So I think I'll probably recommend people, if they want to come, getting their tickets as soon as they can when we announce it, because I think the first we sold more tickets. We had more people in the hall this year than we did last time, and I think I'm pretty confident that next time will be a complete sellout. So, yeah.
And no, it was really fun. We had some good memories there. Hopefully they've looked back at that. Okay, look, we haven't got too much to talk about because we're recording this in the past where you and I live. Well, I live most of the time in the past.
1950s.
But we have an interviewee who started her independent publishing career after retirement. And I think this is relevant for quite a lot of people listening here, perhaps getting towards the end of what they think is their traditional working life, and they have a passion of writing. We talk a lot, don't we, to youngsters who get going straight out of college or in their 20s and 30s, perhaps more typically. But there's no reason why in your 60s, coming up to 70s, you can't start a career as an independent writer. It's a brilliant thing, brilliantly available. So this is Lee Prescott, Mary Lee, and let's have a chat with her, and then Mark and I will be back for a chat off the back.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Lee Prescott, or Mary Lee for the purposes of this interview, welcome to the Self-Publishing Show.
Thank you.
Mary Lee, well, you have written a lot of books, and I loved a little bit in your bio where you say you started with A Torch Under the Covers, reading, wasn't Anne of Green Gables, was it? Nancy Drew, I think, probably, those mysteries. And that's, like for many of us, those early engagements with books set us on a lifelong quest to read and eventually write. But I would like to talk about your more recent career, your writing habits, your publishing methods, and how you dovetail that with your life. So why don't you start with your first published book, Mary Lee? When did that happen?
Well, the first published books were not the ones I'm running now. They were professional books for my career. I was a professor of education and literacy for many, many years. And so my first published book was Fluency and Focus. Then came
Fluency and Focus. That sounds great.
These are on reading and writing for teachers. And then I did a couple of other ones on, one was on reading partnerships and writing partnerships. So those were my first published books. And I had been writing for many, many years at that point. And do you want me to keep going, or do you want to?
Yeah. No. You can morph us to. When did the fiction happen?
The fiction happened in my life and world like 40 years ago, even longer. When I was teaching it at school, we had a writers group, and we started writing things and sharing them. And my first book was still in the drawer somewhere, but I kept writing, and I'd write and I'd attempt to market, and feeble attempts. And sometimes I'd have agents, sometimes I wouldn't. And then I just kind of put everything away. But I kept, in 2010, 11, I met a friend when I was traveling in Arizona, and she had someone that was doing the self-publishing. And she said, oh, it's very easy, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know how easy it is, but so that's how, and the first book that got published from that interaction, I think, was Prep to Kill, which is one of my mysteries. I'd have to go back and look, James. I'm not quite sure, but then I just kept going. And what happened is my kids in Arizona dared me to write this romance series that had a lot of, the setting was out there. And I started that, and of course, those were the ones that sold. And I have 2 mystery series, and I have a lot of standalones, but the ones that I put my energy into most of the time are the romances. However, a new mystery of the Ricky Steele series will come out this summer. And the first one of that, I believe Prep to Kill was the first one I published, but anyway.
And you write all the genres under one pen name?
I do. I thought about splitting them, and then I just decided, let's give this a go. And maybe that's why, maybe if I'm in the midst right now of redoing the covers of the Ricky Steele, because I got that advice. So, although I have a wonderful cover artist, so we'll see if that makes a difference. But I know a lot of authors do split and have a website for this person, a website for that person. It's just too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, we had dinner in Cambridge last night with some authors, including Craig Martell, and he said exactly the same. He writes different genres, but he doesn't want to have 5 different websites and all the rest of that. So, okay, so the romance books were the ones that sold, and you said you wrote them because, was it your kids or the kids you were teaching put you up to it?
Well, they live in Arizona, and my son had all these ideas about, he wanted me to write a mystery set out there in Monument National Park, which I didn't, but I don't know. I just got thinking about it, and the stories started. They're really about family and a community, a small community, and they, readers like them. And I'm working on book 13 of that series, and that has a spin-off series. So I kind of, I have readers saying, well, when's so-and-so's story going to come? So I kind of feel obligated for that to them. But anyway, so I'd go back and forth more if I thought it would be okay. But right now, well, that's what I've been doing. So.
Did you read a lot of genre fiction? Did you read a lot of romance before you started writing it?
Some.
No.
I used to read Rosalind Pilcher years ago, and people like that, but not a lot of romance actually. And I have been reading. I read some as I started off this journey to see if I was going to be way off base. My sort of genre fiction that I love is mysteries. So. But a few, but probably not as many as I should actually.
Yeah, but it's the romance. So you enjoy writing. It's not like a labor for you to write the romance and then you enjoy writing the mystery. You clearly, because you've written a lot, right? Your series are quite long. Yeah. So you enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it, and I enjoy the characters in the romances, and the spin-off series that took us from Arizona to where I live in New England has been fun too. And they write, I won't say they write themselves, but the characters, I know, keeping them all straight. I have these elaborate Bibles and things like that to keep them all straight. But they're fun to write. They're all fun to write.
Let's talk about your process if we can. So when you approach a new book, do you plot things out? You said you've got a Bible to know what's happened in the past, or do you just sit there and Marie Force style and think, well, what's going to happen when I start writing?
I have a little bit of an outline with the mysteries, and I sort of know where those are going and who the killer is or murderer. But the romances, I know who they're going to be about, the two main man and woman, but I guess they're always heterosexual romances too. So far, I do have a number of other kinds of couples in the books, but the central characters at this point have been heterosexual. And I know they're there. I know they're going to have issues and problems and so forth, but I do know that. But those kind of write themselves in that way. I let the characters take off, and I come to know the characters as I write them. I don't write elaborate, which is probably why I have to keep my Bibles, but I don't write elaborate outlines with all the characteristics. They kind of unfold as I go.
What subgenre would you put your romances into?
Probably contemporary, and the ones that are set in Arizona, I usually use the categories of contemporary Western, family sagas they could be in as well, but they're contemporary fiction. It's all present day.
And they're how do I say this delicately, above the covers? I mean, I get a bit confused about all the language about this, but they're not spicy romance or.
They have some spiciness. They're not erotica, but they do go beneath the covers.
Beneath the covers, there you go. I get used to all these expressions.
That's not a big focus of the book in terms of you don't see it every other page, but
yeah,
there are some sexual scenes, yeah.
The reason I ask that, probably more than I talk about with other genres, is I know that romance readers do have expectations, and you have to be reasonably aware of that when you're writing into a particular subgenre. Otherwise, you can get bad reviews simply because something's not there or something is there.
Yeah. Well, I have a reader occasionally say, "Oh, I love these books, but I don't like to have any sex scenes." And I have thought, I was telling someone recently, well, maybe I should just keep writing the series, but not have so much. And then there's not a lot of sex in it. But anyway, and oh no, once you start it, you have to keep going, she said. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So your romance series is the one that you seem to have the most feedback on from your readers. In terms of marketing, is that your main effort, the romance? As you see that as the most commercial that you write?
Yeah. For sure.
And what does your marketing effort look like?
Well, I have a wonderful woman that helps me with my website and helps me with marketing and promotion with various things. She posts on Facebook. I post there sometimes, but she does that. She researches things. And I also myself try to regularly advertise on BookBub. Well, she does that sometimes too. BookBub, Facebook. We tried an experiment with Amazon ads. At this point, I can't. It wasn't too successful, but I get good results with Robin Reads and free booksies and things like that. I think the thing that drives my books and the sales is that the first book of the series is free. At the moment, all the books are in KU, and I'm not sure the free ones, not my other ones. And I'm not sure what that means pricing wise for people who are in or out of KU. But other than that, ordinarily, the first book of each series is free. So that helps, but I'm trying to think what else. Sue does Instagram. This is my marketing person. And she'll look for things. We've done all kinds of other pillow talk and coffee time, and some are better than others. And I just had a marketing firm help me with the Amazon ads. And they say if we kept going, it would be maybe pick up, but I decided to pause them for now. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. They just didn't seem to work for me. So.
Yeah, but Facebook ads might be the one that's working. So your number one in the series is perma-free.
The first one is perma-free. Is that what you said? The perma-free.
Yes.
Only the first in the series, yeah.
Okay.
So Emma's Dream, Lucy's Hearth, Prep to Kill, and A Friend of Silence. Those are the first of the series.
Yeah. And your mystery books, you write, would you describe them as cozy mystery again in the subgenre, or?
Well, that's the trouble. In my mystery series, I have two subgenres. There's a cozy series. There's only 3 of those. It starts with A Friend of Silence, and that's more about a small village type thing. And the other one, Prep to Kill, she's a private investigator. It's told in the first person, and it's got more humor to it. It's a little bit more gritty, urban settings, but so those are different. The subgenres.
Yes, which always makes it a slightly trickier task for marketing. But you said you do outline your mystery books a bit more.
Well, I know what I'm doing to start, and then I sort of have a direction, and then I keep a pretty detailed Bible as I add characters and add descriptions and all that. And I know who's going to be the perpetrator, but how they get to that, I could do a better job of that maybe, but it's just not. I find for me the writing process works better if I don't spend days and days and weeks on an outline, and then I immediately diverge from it anyway. So,
and to be fair, I think that's quite common to have the beats laid out and then just enjoy the writing process up until those points. But a bit of both probably is most people's answer to the question: are you a pantser or a plotter? Now let's talk about again going back to process. I'm always interested in how people write. Where do you write? How much you write, and so on.
I usually write either right here or in another part of the house, but just a part of my living room. But I have a laptop. I write on a laptop. I try to write every day for at least a couple of hours. If I get really going, I might write for 3 or 4 hours, and not much more than that. But life has intruded a lot lately, and the marketing. I'm trying right now. I just retired from my full-time job a year ago now. So I'm trying to make that balance be really a balance between the writing and all the other stuff that goes on in life. And sometimes it's easier than not. But I would say I typically write 5 days a week, and could be a weekend day or it could be a weekday just because of all the other stuff. But I try to sit down and write every day. It's really like people say that writing is hard and it's arduous, but I really enjoy that time. It's actually very relaxing for me. So I'm motivated to do it. It's just, it's a stuff.
Fitting it in. And how many words do you write? Do you give yourself a word count limit?
I don't give myself a word count, but when I was pushing to finish the 5th book in Ricky Steele, which is now with my copy editor, I was trying to write at least 2,500 a day, and because I wanted to get it finished. Ordinarily, I would say typically if I'm meandering along, I haven't given myself a really tight deadline, I could write anywhere from 1,500 to 5,000 if I really got going. It just depends. It depends on the day and what's going on.
And do you write? Well, I always like to know exactly how people write. So do you write in Scrivener or Word? And what does that process look like? Do you go back over your writing, or do you not revisit it until you revise?
Do you mean what I do? A program? I write in Word?
You write in Word. Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you just write forward, or do you go back, rewrite, and then move forward?
That depends too. But I tend to write a first draft pretty much all the way through. But when I sit down to write every day, I try to read maybe the last 5 or 6 pages that I've just written, and then I go on. But I will tell you, because I usually do just write. I do it when the draft is done and I'm revising. There's a lot of the timeline has to be. I keep a timeline I started doing that actually just with the last probably 5 books, and that's been helpful. Because, it can be all over the place. And so I have more revising to do because I don't methodically go back as much as I probably should.
Well, there's different ways of doing it. But I think some people do advocate just going forward and leaving it to the revision stage because otherwise you don't get the first draft done, which is one way of looking at it. So you retired a year ago. Is that from your professorship?
Yes.
Okay, so you were teaching up until a year ago.
Yeah. But there's a flexible schedule, and I had sabbaticals, and I had the summers, so that's where I typically did most of my writing. Yeah.
And your writing career now, Mary Lee, is this something you do as a hobby, or is this a serious sort of part of your pension, if you like, of your income?
Well, it's nice to get the income, but it's mostly just because I enjoy it. I sometimes when I'm in the marketing part of it, I'm thinking to myself, that's it. I'm really retired. I'm not doing any of this anymore. But I do it more for my own enjoyment, and because I have readers that really do look for the next book, I feel like that's gratifying to me. So, and it keeps your mind sharp. I'm getting up there in age, and it just does keep me sharp and thinking about things and creative. I think I have a sister with well, never mind. I won't talk about that. But her mind is going, and I think, well, keep going. So, you just want to do things. And the one thing I will say in retirement, the writing takes up a lot of the reading time. And I'm in a really high-powered, wonderful book group. But I have to really push to get those books. And then the other books, it takes reading time, but that's fine too.
Yeah. Does your book group ever look at your books?
No, well, that's how I got in the book group. They happened to put, I didn't know whether you wanted to see it. I took we have, my neighbors, I don't know whether you have these in Great Britain, but we have, it's called Song of the Spirit, but we have, my neighbor and I made up one of these little free libraries. You have those over there?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And someone got that book out of there and invited me to come to the book club. But so that's how I got in this crazy book club. But anyway.
Yeah, well, that's good. And now you're discussing other books. Okay, so your writing is something that you're obviously dedicated to, even though it's not necessarily a necessary part of your income. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
How long do you think you're going to carry on writing? Do you have a plan? You've got fans who want to know what's happening next. Is there a finite period, or are you just going to do it because you enjoy it?
I'll just do it as long as I enjoy it, and as long as my brain or my mind holds out. I think I do enjoy it, and if it becomes too much, that's fine too. But it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. How do you have your interaction with your users? Is that through Facebook groups, or do you have a mailing list?
Yes, I do, and that's one thing it's one of the many pressures of marketing and self-marketing is increasing that mailing list, and whether that's helpful. And Sue, my PR person, has been, or whatever, social media person, has been trying, but I do have a monthly newsletter.
Yes.
It doesn't have enough subscribers, but they're usually the dedicated readers. But yes, I do.
And a Facebook group.
I have I'm on Facebook, but I have never done the groups, and that's again the tension of whether to do. To take the time to write or take the time to do that kind of thing. I probably should. There is a reader group that Sue set up on Facebook, but we've never really done much with it. So
yeah. But I'm just wondering when your readers' relationship, is it largely the romance readers who are the ones who engage with you?
Yes, although I've had some interesting conversations in past when I was doing more marketing of particularly the Ricky Steele books with people, and I really love the books, and so I haven't been pushing those books because that's not what's been coming out. And I'll write one of those every 3 years or so, but yeah, that most of the engagement is the romance readers. But once in a while, I'll get the others. It just depends.
Yeah. So you write every day? You said.
Well, I'd love to, but I bet you I write 5 days out of the week. But maybe I'll sneak in half an hour, 45 minutes, even if on a day that I, quote, don't write. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, I'm asking these partly out of self-interest because I'm, writing my books, and at some point I will scale down my day-to-day business activities. And I'm just wondering what that looks and feels like. I don't know. People have different ideas of retirement, don't they? A lot of people think retirement is not going to be having to go to a machine and do some work every day. But for me, I think that sounds like a nice thing to do. And like you say, we don't really know how the mind works, but exercising it in that way probably doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Well, I see your book in the background there. I wish I could flip the interview around and ask you all the questions you've been asking me. But retirement for me has been a little bit of an adjustment because I think I was more productive sometimes when all these other forces that are one lovely forces in my life, my family, and everything, when I was working, they couldn't have me do this and this and this with them. And I love doing them, so I would never not do it. But so it's that illusion that I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs in retirement. Oh, I'll call her to, and so but actually I shouldn't say that. I've put 4 books out this year, so I can't complain too much. But anyway, so that it's a little bit of an adjustment. I was looking forward to retirement for this very reason, to write, but it's been an adjustment. People say it takes about a year, and it's not the adjustment of, I love being retired and I loved my teaching career, but I don't miss that. It's just sort of balance and structuring of what you're doing. Because, I have plenty of things to do. I don't like one thing to take over everything else, like the basement, which I've been trying to clean out for 5 years. Anyway, never mind that. But it's fun. It's I think if I didn't have the writing, I'd find something else to do. But the pandemic, of course, the volunteer things that I would be drawn to are usually in schools, and so that's been a little more difficult with the pandemic. But
yeah. But I think that's how you're absolutely write and say that there should be something. It's the one thing I fear. And I fear it in other people, is that they suddenly come to an end of a career. And they used to say the BBC pension did very well because I used to work for the BBC and I have a BBC pension, but because it's quite an intense career and then it suddenly ends.
Yeah.
And the pensions didn't live that long. And
Oh, no.
I think you need to think seriously about how that stage of your life is going to look and feel, because it can be a bit of a shock to some people.
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, hopefully my financial situation will.
Yeah. Well, it's not the finances. It's having purpose, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which you obviously do, Mary Lee, and you've done a terrific job. I'm impressed. Very impressed with your productivity, which is great, and obviously your interaction with readers is great. And we wish you well. I hope you don't mind me asking all these intrusive questions about your process and productivity, because that's how I think most of the people listening always want to know. But Mary Lee, I wish you well, and I'm not going to say in retirement, because this is your second career. I wish you well in the rest of your career.
Well, you too. I'll have to get one of your books. What's the genre of your book, James?
It's 1960s based sort of military thriller, sort of a Cold War.
Oh, I'll have to tell my son. See, one of my two sons is very interested in what I'm doing, and I'm thinking ahead because I'm old. What am I going to do when something happens to me, and what are they going to do? Because the legacy, they can keep getting royalties, they keep writing. Anyway, so One of my kids is very interested in taking the mystery series and kind of expanding that. So actually the one that's more cozy, but he has a lot of, he works for the government and he wasn't in the military. So he's got a lot of more military overtones than I would ever put in my books, but anyway.
Well, he's welcome. Book 1 you can see here is set in the UK, but book 2 is set in California, Edwards Air Force Base. So it might be more relevant. That's good. And legacy planning, which we haven't really talked about, is a really important part as we get older, because it's very easy for our books to die with us, and there's no need for that. We leave people behind, and that's, putting it crudely, leaving money on the table if we don't plan that. So,
I know you have to go, but my PR person, Sue, that does my social media, she kept referring to this woman as her dead author, and this woman has over 100 books. Probably at least a third of those books have been written post her death, and there's nothing, you would never know on the website that this person was done with it. It's interesting. I would do that, but it's just interesting, I think.
Well, she's not the only person who's no longer on the planet writing books. There's quite a few big names. Their books come out quite regularly. I mean, Tom Clancy's done very well since he died. With his books. Okay, Mary Lee, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate the time you've taken, and we'll sort out the technicals afterwards, but thanks for bearing with us, and good luck with the rest of your career.
Well, thank you, James. Nice to talk to you.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. When are you going to retire, Mark?
Well, I won't retire, I don't think. I can't imagine stopping. I mean, that's the joy of what I do, is I love it. So, I can't imagine not writing. That's weird. So and it's also one of those careers that, you're not, I can do it wherever. I don't need to commute. I can do it from home. You can do it as you get old and decrepit. Good news for you. So book 3 shouldn't be affected by your physical ailments.
No.
And it's a hobby really. It just happens to pay the bills. So I don't imagine I'll ever stop. They'll probably have to, in a kind of a John le Carré way, not that I'm comparing myself to him, but he kind of almost died at the typewriter, I think. So, something similar.
Well, you don't even have to die as a writer now when you physically die, do you? Because Robert Ludlum, I think, still writes books, and
there are lots.
Ian Fleming.
Agatha Christie. Yeah, there's tons, Conan Doyle. Yeah, you can live forever as a writer.
Who would you pick to write John Milton books?
Well, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I have to keep my eye on the community. There's only young guns who are up and coming. Well, although to be honest, that's a bit morbid, isn't it? I'm intending to be around for a few years yet. Good
luck with that. I think you should kill Milton when you're 99 and the doctor says to you, "This is it now. I've found something." You should write your final short story. Go to a waterfalls somewhere.
Well, I've done waterfalls before, so I think readers. I did waterfalls in my last Isabella Rose book, so I think I'll have to.
Was that a nod to Conan Doyle?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, look. Anyway, talking about getting on. There's absolutely no reason why you can't have an indie publishing career at any age. I think this day and age, you could be at school and you could be in a retirement home. That is the glory and the beauty of this laissez-faire system that exists today. Okay, that's it for this week. I think in the real world, at the 29th of July, I'm somewhere in the US. I think probably in Phoenix, or coming up from Mexico to Phoenix on my family vacation. Just about to get back and put my nose back to the grindstone after that. But we will be back next week, and we'll have news of the Ads for Authors course, which is going to be open, unusually going to be open in August very shortly. So we'll have news of that next week. Until then, all that remains for me to say is there's a goodbye from him.
And a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishingshow. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with The Self-Publishing Show.